How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? You all know about the lady that's up for the Supreme Court with the Spanish heritage, and everybody is thrilled and delighted that the first Spanish lady, the first person of that heritage that's going to go on the Supreme Court. And everybody's excited for her and thrilled about her, but everybody keeps forgetting that she made judgments. She made judgments that are so ridiculously sick or stupid or racist that you have to be a moron not to notice it. But everybody is covering it up like it doesn't mean anything, like that judgment she made in the fireman's case, which is out and out blatant discrimination. Everybody heard of this fireman's case. Now I'm sure I don't have to explain it to you, where the white people who took the test couldn't get the promotion because the black people who took the same test somehow couldn't pass it. Therefore, the white people shouldn't get the promotion because the black people couldn't pass the test. Now, did you ever hear of a case like this in reverse? Did you ever hear of a black person left back because let's be honest about it, they passed the test and the white people couldn't? Would the black people have fought for that? They would say this is blatant, ugly, disgusting discrimination. But now in reverse, all of a sudden becomes democracy. How is this democracy? Does this mean that every time a white person does well, he should wonder and worry that he better not enter that race because if there's a black person there, he's not allowed to get ahead? Should every white person in America now be left back till a black person catches up to him so that there should be equality? Is that how you judge equality? That a black person is allowed to know nothing and a white person is not allowed to know anything because he doesn't know anything? Is this the way it should work? What happened to Martin Luther King? You should not judge anybody by the color of the skin but the content of your character. Now, is this a reversal? Did Martin already remember heard of Martin Luther King? Or does Martin Luther King suddenly doesn't count? Was he talking only to black people, not to white people? Who was he talking to at the time? You mean to tell me if a black person got ahead and a white person was left behind, he said the color of the skin and the content of your character, that's what counts. But in reverse, it doesn't count? When does it count? What if you're in a classroom and you have to go up to the next thing? You're afraid you should be afraid to be promoted from one class to the next because if there's a black person there who couldn't pass the test, you should be left back again. You should never be able to graduate college if there's a black person there because if he didn't graduate, you should be left back. They should always, the excuse is, well, after all, they have cultural problems that they weren't always allowed and they weren't involved in the same culture necessarily as the whites, and there's qualities in that test that doesn't address the black people equally. They're not as well prepared as the whites. Whose fault is that? Let's be honest about it. Let's assume I was a Jew in a Gentile neighborhood in Appalachia. Could I claim because I'm not involved with the culture of the Gentiles in that neighborhood? Why should they get ahead of me? I don't know anything about that neighborhood. What if an Irishman is in a Jewish neighborhood? He shouldn't be able to pass the test because he's not involved with that culture in that neighborhood? Should everybody be wonder first if there's enough people from the other character in that neighborhood? Why don't we divide this whole country into neighborhoods and places that if you're a minority in that neighborhood, you should pass the test and the other one should be left back because you're not from that neighborhood and you don't know everything that that neighborhood observes. They had the same rights and the same opportunity to get the same education. If they didn't get it because they were left back or they weren't thinking straight or weren't concentrating enough, this is like catering to people and telling you that the black people are somehow stupid. This is not discrimination in favor of black people. This is discrimination against the black people. This is like telling you that if a black person is exposed to the same educational opportunities as the white, he somehow can't pass it because he's somehow stupid. And the people who are trying to protect the black people, instead of insulting them and disenfranchising them from any contest of intelligence, and they're telling you that they don't have the mentality to be able to pass anything when they have to compete with white people. And they are being degraded by the blacks themselves and the so-called civil rights crusaders. You're not a civil rights crusader. You're insulting the mentality of the black people. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. Given the same chance, they could pass the same test. And when they don't, they should suffer the same problems that any white person suffers. I'm not going to advance a white person ahead of a black one because he was too stupid to pass a test. And I wouldn't say he should deserve a privilege because he's from the wrong neighborhood. That's an idiotic nonsense, and it's about time we gave it up. Remember Martin Luther King, and if you can't remember him, you don't belong in this country.